Hi, everyone. I'd like to introduce Kerry Bailey. She's from Sydney Hypno and she's a strategic psychotherapist. And she's joining me today. I'm Cheryl Duffy from the Divorce Centre. I'm a divorce coach, a mediator, and a parenting coordinator. And today we're going to talk about how the trust is eroded from going from trusting someone when you're in a relationship, but then when you're going through separation and moving into co-parenting or financial negotiations, that trust can be really deteriorated. So how do we go about building that trust and making sure that we can have a solid, good co-parenting relationship for the sake of children? So thanks for joining me, Kerry. I just wanted to sort of talk about the different scenarios that I find in helping couples who are separating. And some of the examples that I have is, when they are going through their separation, there may have been both parents looking after the children pre-separation, and they're in that co-parenting mode. But then all of a sudden, when they're moving and shifting to two different homes, they're still going to be needing to share the parenting. There is a lot of trust that's broken down, particularly in capability and competency in the other parent being trusted. So I just want to get your take on what you feel from a psychotherapy perspective, how clients can be helped to rebuild that trust.
Yeah, well, it's a really interesting topic, really, when you think about it, because at some point in time, when people, first come together, there's a lot of trust building, there's a lot of putting your faith into others and actually trusting your own decisions about what you're doing with, the relationship first. And then when the children come along, how you actually negotiate, who does what, when, how, and actually, sort of giving each other a bit of time with the children and also a bit of space where you can just be, in your own space, having a bit of your own time, which is also extremely important.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, we have to also think about different parenting styles.
Oh,
A lot of parents, they want the exact same parenting style to occur in the other household, and they don't reflect on how the parenting styles were existing pre-separation, and then struggle to accept that the parenting styles will be different in the two separate homes. So it's really about trying to help them understand that and accept that that's what it's going to be like going forward.
Well, it's interesting because the dynamics of any family is about working out what's going to be the best balance of what you do with your children, how you communicate with the children, how you support the children. It also comes down to just sharing time with the children and activities and so many other things that you do as a parent. And, even within a relationship, parenting styles can differ, but clearly, once those, parents have different locations and they're co-parenting, there's going to be a lot of, I suppose you would call it, having to negotiate the fact that things may differ from what you want it to be and how it is. And, once you know that the children are actually safe, then the parenting style, so long as that child is in many ways safe, physically, emotionally, and mentally safe, then there's the ability to negotiate how you're going to do that in a style that's going to be okay, because it's okay for the kids. You might not like it, but once you set up some really good boundaries, some really good rules and really good limitations, and you agree to that, then there's more opportunity to sort of go, well, look, can we negotiate this? Can we do that? And just maintain those appropriate boundaries.
Yeah. I find that sometimes they're wanting to sort of set rules, but only rules for the other parent as opposed to equally having the same rules for each other. So, when we talk about boundaries, we're needing to make sure that whatever boundary is sort of set applies to both parents.
Absolutely. It needs
Because,
to be agreed,
yes, definitely.
understood, and maintained.
Yes, exactly.
So it's very interesting that, when you're in the same household, it's not always easy to, sort of come up with the right kind of negotiation skills. And certainly when you're in different, households, it's an even more interesting conversation to have because you really can't control what's outside of your own sphere of influence, really.
No,
You
exactly.
can only influence it. So you can request things, you can ask for them, but you can't control it.
No, no,
The actual wanting to control it can make you feel out of control.
yes, yeah. And you can really have a really detrimental impact on that co-parenting relationship, because when one party feels controlled, they're feeling that they're not having that autonomy to make any decisions. If they're being dictated to, you must do this, you must do that, then they're feeling that loss of power themselves, of being able to look after the children in their time and their care, to do what's necessary to, have their time with the children that's, as you say, safe. They have fun, they enjoy their time with the other parent. And we need to sort of help them understand that they don't need to have control of what's going on in that other household, but also respect that that other parent needs to have that time. That's their time with the child. Because some parents obviously are feeling, I really can't sort of think that I'm not going to have contact with my child each day. But that's where we can sort of work together and find out that they can have something like a FaceTime call for 10 minutes, or instead of constantly trying to contact throughout the day to see how the kids are going. Oh, I wonder if they've had their food, or I wonder if they got to have their nap, because I know they're going to be grumpy when they wake up. You can't control that situation in the other household. So it's a case of being able to make sure that that trust is is put in place. You thinking back when you used to leave the child in the care of the other parent, when you were a family all together in the one house, were you constantly having to check in? Did you have that level of trust that you
Yeah,
now
this
need
is
to build?
interesting.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is that whilst the location has changed, where the children are
Mm,
has changed, the actual requirements of the children haven't changed significantly,
no.
because so long as they're with one responsible caretaker who's going to be looking after them, making sure that, they're getting their sleep and getting their food and having some fun and, basically interacting them as a parent should and would, and the way that they were probably doing it before as well.
Yeah.
Somehow, because you don't have it necessarily as visible or audible to you, that you kind of let go of that trust. The reality is, if you have a co-parent, it's co-parent. They actually want involvement with your child, which is amazing, because there are parents who kind of don't do that for their children.
Mm,
You don't want to isolate the parent from the parenting any more than you want to isolate the child from the parenting, because the child wants that. They actually gravitate towards having a relationship, because they're little human beings who want connectedness. They want relationship. They will ask you, can I do this? Can I do that? Because they want to have that connection. It might be, something that you don't see the other person doing, but they're actually doing it.
yeah.
So being able to know that if you were and are in a position where you can give trust to somebody else because you trust that you do it yourself, then you're actually giving your child and yourself a bit of a gift, because you can't parent a child just by yourself without some kind of ramification to you and that child.
Yeah.
That child needs to have and form strong relationships and communication styles with different people, not just the one person.
Yeah.
They'll be able to navigate life a lot easier themselves, and also have a sense of support that just doesn't come from one arena.
What advice would you give to a co-parent that's really struggling with, in the moment where they don't have the kids at home and they're consumed with those thoughts of, are they okay? Are they safe? What's happening now? I need to know. I need to know they're okay. What do you do as a psychotherapist that can help parents to feel calm and feel things are okay, um, as opposed to being in this panic and sort of all these, you know,
Yeah,
catastrophized thoughts of what
yeah.
could be going wrong, which actually are not.
Well, look, it's very interesting, because as a strategic psychotherapist, what we're actually doing is we're working with people so that they have strategies. So
Yeah.
we actually want people to have the capability of going, I can have trust because I've got evidence that I can have trust. Now, trust in looking after your children isn't the same trust as, I want to be with that person anymore. You've now made a decision or a co-decision to have a different relationship. The children want to still have a relationship that isn't necessarily being reflective of the exact relationship you want to have. So being able to say to yourself, okay, I have responsibilities, but you don't do over responsibility. I, make decisions. I make choices. I can decide that, when I'm making some boundaries, I set those boundaries in place. So some of those boundaries may be, listen, when you're trying to communicate with that person, they may actually be in a place of work, where they can't have an interruption. And at the end of the day, if you're calling somebody in or somebody's trying to call you and you are in a meeting or you are in a situation where you can't take a call, the same thing happens for another person. And when you're not able to take that call, it's not because there's any overarching, problem. It's just physically, I can't take that call right now. I am doing something where I have to have my focus elsewhere. So when you become aware of the fact that, those things happen for others and you can apply that, you can go, listen, just because it's front of mind for me doesn't mean that that person is going to be able to answer me exactly when I want to. Sometimes it's only within certain time frames that someone can easily respond to you. And knowing that means you can go, okay, well, maybe they are busy in a meeting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's about shifting that thought process, isn't it? And really making sure that you're not automatically thinking the negatives of, oh, they don't care, work's more important than the kids, I need an answer. Like, why are they not picking up the phone? Are they sitting there and seeing my name and thinking, I'm not going to pick up the phone? Instead of going down that negative track, it's about thinking of what other possibilities it could be. As you say, he's in a meeting or she's in a meeting, so she's not able to get to the phone. Oh, she might be bathing the kids.
They could be in the water. They could be bathing the kids. The kids might be in a canoe and the phone's in the bag or in the car and, they're taking the kids on a lovely adventure. Or, it could be so many different things. They might be in the car and they can't answer the phone because, they just got, lost 4 points on the license because they answered a text or something while they were driving. The thing is, there are a lot of caveats around when people can be communicated with that aren't just, oh, I can't take the call right now. It's like, I'm not allowed to take the call right now.
Yeah.
There are so many more scenarios than I'm not going to take that call or I'm not going to answer that text. The thing is, there's a very interesting thing that happens with communications because we have this thing where we think everybody's available all the time. You and I are doing a meeting at the moment. There are calls coming into me. There are calls coming into you. We can't interrupt because we're actually focused on doing something we have to do right now. Now, the people who are at the other end of those phones could be going, oh, they don't want to talk to me. Well, I don't even know who's calling me yet. I don't know who's texting me. What's going on for me is, I'm sorry, I have to do this. As soon as I get, time, and that might be in an hour, might be in 2 hours, might be tonight, or might be tomorrow, I will have to get back to them, but it'll be in a time that's appropriate. Now, I'm not going to ring you at 1 a.m. if the only time I get free is 1 a.m. because that wouldn't be appropriate. So also the time that you can take the call might not be appropriate, or the time you get the text might not be appropriate. So there's so many scenarios for, what's going on.
Yeah.
The fact that you focus on one and it's always the negative one, and that's the pattern that you're running, you're kind of going, oh, it's always like this. That's just globalizing something that isn't true. So being able to say to yourself, okay, it could be anything, and not agitating yourself and not sitting in that stress is really helpful and beneficial to your brain. Because I don't know if people know it, but, if you're creating stress in your body, it actually has a physiological repercussion on you as well, because the more stressed you allow yourself to become, the more easy it is for you to be stressed and to do that pattern of getting upset. Yeah. So what we do is we actually give people real world strategic skills to not go to that catastrophization. We call it over rumination. we call it catastrophization, and neither of those things helps anybody. It just feels like, when people get angry, they feel powerful, but what they don't realize is they're actually not intentionally, but effectively doing something to their body that they don't need to do. When you've got stress hormones going through you, when you've got cortisols going through you, inflammation is easier to, amplify. So if you've got a minor issue, the amplification of that, you might have just a bit of a thing going on. All of a sudden you notice, oh, got a bit of a headache. Oh, that's an inflammation response potentially. So allowing people to remain calm and have effective strategies to become more calm and not to catastrophize has so many benefits that aren't just your mental health, it's also your physiological health. So yes, we do have strategies.
And as you say, as you were saying before about you might feel more powerful because you're angry, but actually you look out of control and you can actually feel out of control. And all that does is incite conflict from the other side as they get defensive. I was in a meeting, I couldn't have answered the phone. And then it escalates into this huge conflict.
Absolutely.
And you've got the knock-on effect, the kids seeing that conflict and they're getting agitated.
Here's the interesting thing. Kids are sponges. So they're going to see what the communication's like. They're going to sense what the dynamic is. That's not helpful for the children. So being able to have this ability to calm yourself is something you can give to your children by observation, because kids are sponges, as I said. It's osmosis. So you can feel like, you've got a lot of power because you're being angry and all the rest, but the kids actually see, oh, that's not comfortable. That doesn't feel good. And it doesn't assist them with their physiology or their psychology either.
Or it doesn't set them up to be able to do problem solving into the future. Because if they learn that when you shout the loudest and you're angry, that's how you get what you need. That's how you get what you want, is not a strategy that you want to teach a child.
100%.
That's not the way you
100%.
want them to be into the future, surely.
People talk about children acting out.
Yes.
It's a really interesting word to use, acting out.
Yeah.
So what are they acting? They're actually kind of channeling what they're seeing and sensing and hearing.
Yes.
That's a really interesting thing, because when I hear somebody say, oh, their kids are acting out, it's like, so what are they observing that they're replicating? What is it that they're trying to show or release or get control over? And everybody knows when a kid's acting out, they've got no control.
No.
They're just doing, not within themselves and just able to go, okay, I can have a structured way of doing this that means that everything can just be a lot more calm, where I can feel more in control, where you can actually have the capability and the building competency to improve your outcomes, whatever they may be.
Yeah. And we all know that separation brings about, through the grief, anger. So it really is something that we need to try to manage with strategies and techniques. So going to a psychotherapist, that's not looking into the past like a psychologist might do, of what's triggering you from childhood trauma, what's the reason why you're getting angry. But from a psychotherapist, you look at these strategies to help them in the now and in the future. Is that not right?
Absolutely. I'd just like to clarify something. So there are different types of psychotherapy. There can be just talk therapy, right through to what we do, or I do, and colleagues of mine do, which is strategic psychotherapy. So a psychotherapist, can be called a psychotherapist because they've done some training, but what's their platform of modalities? So do they just have, a couple of tools in their tool chest, or do they have a whole group and plethora, raft of skill sets and modalities to bring to the table? Because you sometimes, like, everybody's unique, everybody's situation is unique, and sometimes you actually need different techniques to get to the goals you want. So strategic psychotherapy is where there are many strategic modalities. And when I say strategic, it's all about process, it's simple to follow, and it's something that you can implement pretty much straight away.
Yes. And that's what
So it's not about, oh, if we keep working out, as you said, the why question, why do you feel like this, isn't resourceful.
no,
It's
it
more
keeps
getting you
them
stuck
stuck
in the
in,
past. Yeah. So if you keep
exactly.
trying to work out why
Mm,
something is going on, it doesn't actually get you to the heart of the matter, which is, listen, it doesn't matter why you're doing it. The fact of the matter is that you are doing it. And what we need to do is change those behaviors, your frame to what's, setting you off,
yeah.
the things that you can do that are strategic, that can help you to be calm and not catastrophize and not be angry and to have more calmness. Give that gift to your children, give that gift to yourself, and have better communication. Because if you're wanting to do the whys, it's going to keep you stuck. If you want to do the how to improve things right now, look at the process, change your frame, change your processes that you're doing. You will have different outcomes.
Yeah. And I think that's what people need when they're going
Oh,
through separation,
absolutely.
as it's a fast moving process that you're needing to not only cope with all of the impacts of that's impacted your life, like loss of home, loss of time with the kids, impact on your work productivity, loss of relationship, so many different things that you are feeling so overwhelmed. Probably the worst thing you can do is be delving back into, well, what's been triggered
Couldn't have
now
said it
from your
better.
childhood, you
Yeah.
know?
The thing is, if you're looking for answers in the past and you're trying to somehow change the past so you have a better now, it's not going to happen because the past is over. So
Yeah,
you trying to fix something from when you were, you know, 12 or under, or 18 or under, or, even 20 something and under, it doesn't change the past. What you really need is to be able to move forward and go, okay, that is the past. And I'm going to have strategies and skills that mean that the past doesn't affect me now. And I
yes,
can have a better now and I can have a better future.
absolutely. Yeah,
Does that make sense?
definitely. So then getting back to the trust, rebuilding trust between parents. They're no longer partners, but they're still parents. What would you say would be the best thing for them to do in regards to engaging with a psychotherapist to help them retain that trust that they once did have? They would have had their life on their line, and thought that that person would have their back in everything in their life. We're needing to make sure that they have an understanding that that trust still needs to go into the co-parenting, that they're going to do the right thing by the children. They may
Yeah.
not have the same relationship as partners or the same concern for each other as parents, but they should have the same concern about the children. And as you mentioned before, the children are wanting to have the same relationship they had before. Just because mum and dad's relationship is not the same as it was before doesn't mean the children's relationship has to change.
Well, it's a big question, but I'll try and give a concise answer, because the thing is that from the perspective, and you kind of said it in your question, is that, whilst the parents' relationship changes with each other, the parenting relationship kind of needs to be intact for the children to some extent,
Yeah.
because the children are going to be seeking relationship. They are going to want to, have some connectedness. And when you desensitize yourself to the things that you feel trigger you, when you start to have calmness and you don't start to just react to everything, and in fact, you have more of a measured response that's based on, establishing communications, good rules, boundaries, and limitations that you honor. So there has to be, are these things being honored? Yes, I can trust that, because from a perspective of you trust, well, you kind of trusted yourself to get into that relationship, and then you realize, okay, for whatever reasons, that's no longer, a relationship I want to be in. Do I make good decisions? Well, actually, yeah, you did, for its time.
Mm.
But the thing is, you need to be making decisions for its time now, not based on a split, not based on because you were angry. It's like, okay, for whatever reason, this is coming to a conclusion. Now it's a new phase. And now we have a new phase of trust. It's a different type trust. It's not, I don't trust you with my feelings as a partner, but I can trust you with your feelings of care for our children.
Yes.
So there can be so many benefits to both partners for having that established way of caring for those children. And importantly, there's so much that those children can benefit from having that structure, that honoring, and that ability to know that you can trust.
Yes.
That ability to go, you know what? I know that despite any, upset I've had with that person, the reality is their relationship with the children doesn't need to change. It can actually evolve. This is all about evolving. We're not dinosaurs. We're humans who make decisions about what we're doing, and we make choices about how we're going to respond and react. And so answering the question about what a psychotherapist, a strategic psychotherapist does, is they give you the tools to be able to learn how to trust yourself again, how to establish communications, how to not overthink things, how not to do a drama cycle that keeps you stuck in the why, how to actually be able to build a really relevant new communication and parenting style with that parent.
Absolutely.
Knowing that you can't control everything, but when you agree to things through, good communication, great things can happen.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's getting there that's the difficult part. So my role is to help people to have a different response and have a different way of thinking and not going into that space of drama, catastrophization, upset and anger. And by the way, so many other things calm down and feel so more relaxed and so much better when you're not absorbed by this, when you're not in that overwhelm of, oh my God, what can I do? How can I manage, control this? Because at the end of the day, all you get to control is your response to things and how you're going to negotiate things and the agreements you come up with. Yeah. And that will take the volatility out.
Yeah.
And it'll make the whole process so much easier, calmer, and simpler.
Yeah. And that's going to be good for the whole family.
Oh my God, the children benefit so much from this type of work.
By minimizing all that conflict is going to really help them transition and adjust to those two, family homes, so they can start to adjust and get used to a new routine. But if they've got all this chaos going on, all this fighting going on, it makes it very unstable for them. They feel insecure and unsafe in that environment.
And they don't tell you. They just respond and react to it. They just act out, or they start to develop certain types of anxiety, or they start to develop their own. See, this is the thing. They're starting to develop their own patterns of behavior, and you don't want that thing that you think is a trauma from a childhood to affect them into the future. What you want them to be able to do is be able to look at you and go, oh, that's how you do negotiation. That's how you do calm. That's how you don't catastrophize. That's how you do all of these things that allow you to have that freedom of growth. Because the thing is, if you're angry, if you're not communicating, if you're stuck in the why, if you're stuck in the anger and the stress, you're not going anywhere. You're stuck.
Yeah.
You are stuck in a problem.
You're an actual prisoner to your breakup. And you want to separate how you feel about your breakup to your co-parenting responsibilities.
Absolutely.
Because your kids need you to help them through this.
100%. In fact, the interesting thing is when people do this work and they start to, and essentially start to share the strategies of what keeps them calm and everything, they can actually support each other and have, and people don't believe this until it happens. You can actually have such a beneficial co-parenting that you can actually negotiate. Listen, there's a special event I'd like to go to. Can you help me to look after the kids at that time by you taking them on, and then I'll, do it another time. And you actually have this wonderful dynamic of co-parenting that really works for everyone.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And people might be in a situation right now that would go, that's not going to be possible. Well, the reality is that's because you're doing the it's not possible thinking and you're keeping it in that frame. The reality is that when you have an open mind, it's like a parachute, it's going to save you.
Yes.
If you're jumping out of that plane and that parachute's closed, you're hurtling towards the ground in one outcome.
Yes.
Get the help you need, get the support you need.
Absolutely.
Allow yourself to have these new ways of dealing with things and getting distinctions about how your part in it can mean that you have a better time of it and your child has a better time of it. And then maybe the relationship is that it's much stronger in the care of the co-parenting style.
Yes. And it's not about how the other person can change. It's about how you can change to be able to manage this difficult time, what
100%.
you can do to improve things. Because there's so often they say, oh, if only they did this or if only they did that. Well, it's a case of, okay, what can you do to help change that situation? Because any shift in the dynamic of conflict by one person can actually make a huge difference.
Yeah. Here's the thing, and you said it before, people become a prisoner of their anger and their frustration and all that sort of thing. Everybody's got the key to that prison.
Yeah. Yeah.
To unlock it from the inside. The lock's on the inside. It's not on the outside. Nobody's coming to save you. You actually get to be a part of your process of getting better, getting healthier, being happier, leaving the past in the past where it belongs. It's so important to know that you also don't want, your thoughts to be your prisoner, the way that you deal with things to be your prison warden. Yeah. And you don't want kids trapped in there with you.
Yes, that's very
You want to be able to unlock that door and go, okay, I can breathe, I can see the sunshine, I can see possibilities, and allow yourself to have those tools that you can then display to your children so that they go, oh yeah, there's possibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the kids will be much happier if you're happy. So if you're there at the park or canoeing on the lake and you keep checking your phone, oh, they still haven't answered my text or they haven't answered my call. You're not there in the moment with your kids. You're not enjoying them. You're agitated. They're thinking, oh, I better not say anything that's going to upset mum or dad. So you're not providing quality time to the children when you're so consumed with what's going on with your ex. So it's really important to be able to let go of those harsh feelings and start working together for the kids' sake and look at the children through their eyes of what they're seeing and learning.
And I'd like to just make a distinction. Sometimes people feel like their anger is like a power.
Yeah.
They'll feel like it makes them feel energized, or they'll think that it makes them feel strong to be angry. But anger doesn't actually do that. It's just you interpret that you feel stronger, but you're not.
No.
You're actually on a weaker platform. The more angry, the more you hold on to that.
Yeah.
Generally, the less, and I'm going to use the word rational, your responses will be to things because you're already at that tipping point. You're already at the top level of what you're going to react to. Whereas if you're calm, oh yeah, okay, well, I can at least think about it.
Yeah.
So your life becomes much better.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we could talk about this forever, Kerry. So I think we need to leave it there for today, but it was just so great to chat with you about how we can, help clients rebuild trust and be able to sort of help their children through this very, very difficult time.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for joining.
Much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Kerry.